Okay, on today's show, we've got some bad news for smokers, mortgage compensation for thousands of people, and migrants are to be put up in, let's just say, some very different sort of hotels. Let's begin. The article says that illegal migrants will be housed in giant barges to slash the £3.5 billion asylum hotel bill, the Sun can reveal. Ministers are preparing to unveil a fleet of static vehicles with container cabins for hundreds of new arrivals. Accommodation barges are widely used in offshore construction and the oil industry, providing a basic bed and board for workers. But they are a far cry from the luxury 4- or 5-star hotels currently being used to put up new arrivals who enter Britain on small boats. Our revelation comes as it is revealed that the hotel bill hit an astonishing £3.5 billion last year, a third of Britain's international aid budget. And Immigration Minister Robert Jenrick will today announce that anyone coming to Britain illegally from now on will no longer be allowed to stay in pricey hotels. They'll be put up in large-scale self-contained sites like RAF Scrampton and former RAF Weatherfield instead, despite the fury of the locals. And also a further announcement on the nautical housing is set to be made in the coming days. The Home Office wants the new accommodation to be a deterrent, not a magnet, for more migrants attempting the lethal Channel crossing, and point out that the EU nations, including France, are already housing refugees in floating vessels. Sites, of course, will have 24/7 security and a range of amenities in a bid to try and stop people needing to leave. A staggering 51,000 asylum seekers are being put up in nearly 400 hotels across the country, and Mr Sunak has vowed to end the use of hotels altogether to cut the huge sums as part of his illegal migration blitz. But for now, the new sites will only be used for new arrivals and won't move current hotel users out. Some have been block booked for another 18 months as local authorities struggle to find places to house arrivals as the numbers surged to a staggering 45,000 last year. Well, of course, I don't know about you, but I personally think it's about time the government has finally started pulling its finger out a bit. Because let's face it, it's just getting beyond a joke now, isn't it? I mean, this whole thing started a few years ago when Nigel Farage was one of the first people who actually brought it to the mainstream media, who, let's face it, weren't too keen on reporting something like that back then, were they? And now, of course, they got no choice. I personally think it was a mistake putting them up in 4- and 5-star hotels from the very beginning. I know they've obviously got to go somewhere, but putting them up in that sort of level of accommodation is only going to entice people to come over here more, isn't it? Especially if they think they're going to get luxury treatment for free. I know they're now finally starting to get on the way of doing it, but they should have, in my opinion, used the Tony Abbott Australian-style system in the beginning, which is basically where anyone does enter our country illegally will just be turned around and either sent back or sent to a third country while their application is being processed. Because let's face it, our points-based system is there for a reason, isn't it? And therefore, if you get people crossing the channel and trying to enter our country illegally, that just makes a mockery of the whole thing, doesn't it? Especially if in the rare case they did actually try and apply and they get turned down, and just come across anyway, and then get put up in a 4- or 5-star hotel. This can't make it up, can you? And yes, okay, whilst I know that this may have a knock-on effect for the few genuine refugees that are out there, probably 10 or 12 of them, something does need to be done, because at the end of the day, if people come across without any paperwork or identification or anything like that at all, they could be all sorts of criminals and therefore a potential danger to members of the public, which, to be honest, is the last thing anyone needs. It just makes me wonder how much these hotel boats, if you want to call them that, will actually put people off from leaving the safe country of France and attempting the crossing. I got a feeling probably not that much, at least to begin with anyway. But at the end of the day, if they are genuine in need of our help, they should surely be happy with anywhere that we give them, shouldn't we? Like, can you remember a few months ago, I think it was, there was all this fuss, something needed to be done because they, for whatever reason, they weren't happy in army barracks, which obviously are good enough for our soldiers, but for some reason not them. I mean, can't understand that. It is also obviously a good thing that they do have 24/7 security, because let's face it, we don't really want any of them, let's just say, trying to avoid the paperwork and disappear into the countryside, do we? Although, depending on how far these barges are out at sea, they may need to be a bit of a good swimmer in that case. Maybe, who knows, they could probably even imagine that they're on a government sort of free cruise. And yes, of course, whilst this is for new refugees, or illegal boat people as I like to call them, I'm pretty sure that the 4- or 5-star hotels are actually meant for us, members of the public, to book up and go on a holiday ourselves, so just makes me wonder how long it'll actually be before the government moves them out of hotels and either onto one of those barges themselves, or maybe sends them to a third country like Rwanda. But let's face it, now they've booked them for 18 months, it doesn't look like it's going to be any time soon, does it? Especially, no doubt, it will get extended as well. Drivers have been warned about an often forgotten rule that could land them a £2,500 fine and a possible driving ban. Smoking at the wheel isn't illegal, but apparently it distracts from the road and can be used to demonstrate careless or dangerous driving. Car experts at quotezone.co.uk claim that taking eyes off the road to light a cigarette could put road users at risk, as the highway code specifically lists smoking as a distraction. Rule 148 of the Highway Code says, safe driving needs concentration. Avoid distractions when driving, riding, such as loud music, trying to read maps, starting or adjusting any music or radio, arguing with your passengers or other road users, eating, drinking and smoking. Coupled with bad driving, the habit could lead to a case in court and a fine of up to £2,500 and 9 penalty points and even a temporary ban. Smoking whilst driving could lead to an accident, incurring even more severe consequences like imprisonment if it was proven that the driver was distracted by their actions. Also, drivers caught discarding their cigarettes from their car window may face a fine between £50 and £100. Oh, what a load of crap, eh? I mean, what's going to be next as a distraction? Looking down at your speed, but then, of course, they'll do you for possible speed and for not looking at your speedo. I mean, you just can't win, can you? At the end of the day, it's someone's choice if they want to smoke or not. I mean, obviously you can't smoke if you've got children in the car. Apparently they made that illegal a few years ago. But if it's your car and you're on your own, or even with adults, then you can smoke if you want. And whilst no one's saying that in itself is illegal, I think they are taking a pee a bit by putting out warnings against it. I mean, I myself don't smoke, but I respect people's rights to do so. And something like this just reminds me of pure money grabbing. I mean, you could just imagine it, can't you? Damn, your driving licence appears fine, sir. Oh, do you smoke? To be honest, it just makes me wonder where all this sort of thing is going. I mean, can you imagine if in about 5 or 10 years' time, insurers will actually require people not only to have a telematics thing installed in their car so they can judge someone's driving, but maybe also have a dash cam fitted on the outside and inside of your car. I mean, don't get me wrong, I don't have a problem with a dash cam fitted on the outside because that can be quite handy with accidents, but that should be the person's choice if they actually want to have one or not. But let's face it, it is going to escalate over time, isn't it? I mean, not only, in my opinion, is this basically attack on the motorist itself, but if they do go onto the whole internal dash cam thing or something like that, not only would that be an invasion on our privacy, but also it's bound to try and give companies loopholes to get out of paying for whatever damage needs to be paid by basically judging our every move. At the end of the day, though, drivers actually do need to look around. I mean, sorry, but we do. We have to look left, right, and obviously straight ahead, and occasionally we do need to adjust some controls. But what'll even want next? Us just to sit there like Mr. Bean, look dead ahead, but obviously in the car, not on the roof on the couch. Homeowners who have held TSB mortgages could get compensation after a High Court hearing to rule if the bank exploited customers. Thousands of Brits became mortgage prisoners trapped paying high interest rates after the 2008 crash. Law firm Harkers Parker say TSB put borrowers on its Whistletree brand paying rates as high as 9%. This came after TSB bought £3.3 billion of Northern Rock mortgages when the bank collapsed. The law firm now wants the High Court to force TSB to write to its 27,000 customers, telling them that they could have a legal claim. Damien Parker, the senior partner at Harkers Parker, said that former and current TSB customers should sign up to the claim fast, as legal time limitations could reduce the amount of compensations they receive. He said, "The fact that we will now have a trial to decide if TSB has breached the terms of my client's mortgage contracts is very positive news. It means that the whole process can be expedited. We are confident that in our contention that Whistletree customers were unfairly trapped on high interest rates and they should be repaid back. The extra money TSB unfairly charged them. We hope that it will set a legal precedent for all mortgage prisoners who have endured financial misery through no fault of their own. Homeowners who could not pass affordability tests to get new mortgage providers and leave Whistletree have found they've been paying above the market rate for years. A report by the London School of Economics estimated the government made £2.4 billion by selling mortgages from collapsed lenders to investment firms. Well, obviously the 2008 recession has got a lot to answer for, isn't it? Especially the whole debacle with Northern Rock and TSB. Hopefully they will win their case, because it is really unfair to customers to be trapped for something which isn't their fault. Especially, of course, as house prices have gone to stupid levels in the last couple of years. But of course it's not just that, because rent prices have also gone up to eye-watering levels. Take, for example, my rent. My landlord thought now would be the absolutely perfect time in the cost of living crisis to put my rent up £85 a month, which obviously I'm not too happy about. But anyway, going back to mortgages and house prices, I do think that the way they lend mortgages out should be really updated, because I'm sure for most people that 4.5 or 4 times their salary isn't going to be enough to get a house nowadays. Which, to be honest, I'm pretty sure is the way they're still lending mortgages out, and it has been that way for decades, hasn't it? And therefore, to be honest, doesn't really seem fit for purpose anymore. Although, of course, whenever they do decide to update the lending method or algorithm, whatever you want to call it, measures should be put in place to make sure something like this does not happen again. And let's face it, another thing which certainly needs to change is the new EV scheme in this video, because if anything, I think it will hinder quite a bit rather than help. Anyway, subscribe for more and I'll see you in the next one.